and welcome to Chicago Style Eats, the show where we talk about and sample tasty foods invented in Chicago. I'm Tony.
And I'm Stephanie. And in this episode, we talk about the Sweet Steak Supreme sandwich.
Here at Chicago Style Eats, we love a good origin story. The tale of the Sweet Steak Supreme has quite a few exciting twists and turns. But first, what is the Sweet Steak Supreme?
A tongue twister. The Sweet Steak Supreme is essentially a Philly cheesesteak, but with some classic Chicago-style tweaks. As the book describes it, it's like an Italian beef that drove through a big baby, previous episode, a bucket of mild sauce, and a Chicago hot dog by way of Philadelphia on its way to your mouth.
In the 1960s, a young man by the name of Ed Perkins opened a hot dog and ice cream shop, Taurus Flavors, at 79th and Morgan Streets on Chicago's South Side. Philly cheesesteaks weren't on his menu then, but he went to Philadelphia often to visit an army buddy, and while there he sampled hoagies and cheesesteaks. He had the idea to bring those flavors to Chicago, but he felt he needed to adjust things to make them more appealing to Chicago taste buds. After a few years of tweaks, he had come up with a meal on a bun, inspired by the savory, cheesy Philly cheesesteak, but with American cheese, grilled onions, tomato slices, sweet green relish, sweet and or hot peppers, and good old Southside mild sauce, all on a steamed hoagie roll. The sandwich debuted in 1971 as the Supreme Steak. By 1972, Ed Perkins and a group of other entrepreneurs owned 8 Taurus Flavors restaurants across Chicago and one in Chester, Pennsylvania.
Within a few years, several other restaurants bearing the name Taurus Flavors had opened, but without the blessing of Perkins and his business partners. Shameful. These unauthorized offshoots siphoned away much of the business and reputation of the real Taurus Flavors restaurants. And by 2001, Perkins had scaled back his business once again to a single restaurant, now at 85th and Stony Island Avenue in the Avalon Park neighborhood. Soon after, tragedy struck when his restaurant was robbed, during which a beloved, longtime employee of his company was murdered. Perkins's sorrow was magnified when it was discovered that the robbery had been pulled off by former employees of Taurus Flavors.
Perkins and his wife, Bernice, carried on, maintaining their restaurant's popularity until Perkins passed away in 2016. His children, son Ed Perkins II and daughter Keisha, took over the business and continued in relative obscurity in Chicago's North Side biased foodie scene. That is, until an article in the Chicago Reader newspaper sparked citywide interest in Taurus Flavors, and the Perkins family was suddenly flush with business, selling as many as 1,000 sandwiches a day in 2019. But then, tragedy struck again when a car crashed into a corner of their building, causing it to partially collapse. Undaunted, Ed II and Keisha continued to meet the high demand for their sandwiches by selling it through the back door of the restaurant. That is, until the City of Chicago building inspectors shut them down. Unable to afford insurance, the Perkins have since struggled to try to raise the funds to repair their building.
But thanks to the original partnership of Ed Perkins Sr. and his friends, home of the hoagie on 111th Street, a truly sanctioned purveyor of the Supreme Steak, is still churning them out. And that's where we went to sample the Sweet Steak Supreme.
Oh my God. How are we gonna eat that?
That's why they give you a fork.
Holy crap. Wow. Big honkin' sandwich. And just covered in mild sauce.
It was a boat
Yes.
sitting in the container, floating
Yes.
in the mild
Pretty
sauce.
much, yeah. And it looks like they make their own jardinere.
Yeah, the jardinere looked very fresh and homemade with big chunks of the celery and the cauliflower
and green olives.
and green olives and carrots.
And, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Very pickled.
there's a lot going on in this sandwich. And it's a huge mess.
I didn't see any cheese, and I don't think you noticed any cheese. And in the history, they state that they sampled different cheeses because they didn't want to use Cheese Whiz like the Philly Cheesesteak people. So they didn't say what they sampled, but they said the American cheese was the most popular or most flavorful or complimented it the most, or
what people wanted more than anything else. They wanted all the Chicago style flavors. So you got the hot dog toppings, you got the grilled onions that you find in the Big Baby, and
mild sauce, which is all throughout the south side of Chicago.
Yep.
With everything on it. We did the whole thing.
The whole thing, sweet and hot.
It's got some kick. Oh boy. Woo!
Did we get our water?
That's, yeah.
Okay.
I just don't know where it is. That's
when we go back,
Now we're gonna try.
for myself at least anyway, we'll get it not hot but sweet, because the hot was just, if you've been watching, you know, hot is not our thing. So we tried it with the hot and it was good. And but emphasis good. It was a very good sandwich.
Yeah. And I'd like to make note that on their menus, they just refer to it as hoagie steak. They don't say the sweet steak supreme or any of that verbiage. So it's a little bit confusing when you go there to order, because they have other hoagies too. So they refer to it more as a hoagie than a steak.
Yeah, the main sandwich board is just hoagies.
Hoagies.
Then there's steak and then whatever. Yeah. If it's top of the list, steak, and it says meal on a bun.
Yeah, so we figured that was the only one that referred to steak, so we got it.
Just big sandwich, a lot of food. It says meal on a bun, and
It was a lot of
I
meat.
think it's a meal for a small family on a bun, because it was that much food.
A lot of meat.
Yes.
Like, you really get good value for your money.
And we're not talking about this generally in our show, but great French fries.
Yes, they had French fries that could rival Jude and Jude's French fries.
And there was
The mild sauce is very tasty. It's a little bit, it almost looked like it had some sort of strawberry syrup in it, because it had just this pink tinge, and it had a definite sweet, but then a definite tang. So I like their mild sauce a lot.
I think it was more sweet than tangy. Well, it's called the Sweet Supreme.
Yeah, sweet steak supreme.
Yeah, most people when they order it, they'll say they want the sweet steak.
Yeah, we noticed that while we were there, which really it wasn't very long, because we walked in, the line way of where you order and everything was a little confusing, but we were there for probably 15-20 minutes at the most, and as we were watching people, they would order the sweet steak.
Yep.
And then there were big jalapenos in there.
Yeah, which I avoided.
Yeah. So, but you liked the sandwich. You said it was very tasty.
Very tasty.
So, right now, Taurus Flavors seems to be closed because they have a GoFundMe account to have a formal building with a formal parking lot that's paved. And it seems like when you look at the GoFundMe page, they have not raised the necessary funds for that, which is really a bummer, because the original place should be able to sell the sandwich they invented.
Yeah, so I don't know. We don't have the information handy of what their GoFundMe is, but if you are interested and want to help them out,
just look up Taurus Flavors, Chicago.
So where can we find Sweet Steak Supreme, or the Supreme Steak, depending on who's calling it what?
Yeah. Home of the Hoagie, which is where we went, 1316 West 111th Street. Mr. Hoagie, 12303 South Halsted Street. And Haley's Hoagies, 1055 West 63rd Street.
So head to one of those locations, or if you find sweet steak somewhere else, load up, because that's a big sandwich. And enjoy. Coming up on the next Chicago Style Eats,
it's green grapes, seedless, white frosting, and peanuts. People really love these things in Chicagoland. No.
Here we go. Oh, okay. If you like this episode, click the thumbs up icon below. Don't like it? Let us know in the comments what might make it better. Want to see more Chicago-style eats? Click the subscribe button below so you can get an alert each time we drop a new episode. Don't know what the heck we're doing? Click on the end screen or the link in the description below to see our intro video. Thanks for watching.